you can 100% see they're lying.
Okay guys, so I saw a video that I couldn't pass up. I just couldn't pass up because my friend Sam Prim, one of my real estate investor friends that I have, actually got attacked on Dave Ramsey's show. Can you believe it?
Just a straight up lie.
I think it's fascinating, so I want to react to Dave Ramsey's reaction to this guy's video. But first, I want you to see his video so you understand the context.
We're in $25 million worth of debt, which means exactly what you think. We owe banks $25 million, which costs us about $127,000 a month in more.
$127,000 a month in mortgage payments. Now that sounds like a freaking crap load of payments, if you can imagine. Some people are like, I pay $1,270 a month, not $127,000. That's 100 times that.
But like most things, there are two sides of the coin. That $25 million in debt allows us to own assets worth $42 million. So the difference in my assets of 42 and my debt of 25 is $17 million of equity I would not have if I was not in that debt. But it gets even better. That debt owns real estate assets, and those assets bring in about $287,000 a month in rent. So $287,000 in rent every single month, $127,000 in mortgage payments every month, leaves $160,000 every single month that I gotta put in my pocket.
Right there. So you got that, right? Between the mortgage payments and what he actually makes on his gross rents, $160,000 a month payment or profit every single month. So his rent covers his mortgage payments, but he does have a caveat. It's not that he doesn't make $160,000 a month completely.
Now there are a lot of other expenses that come out of that, so it's not near that much to actually take home, but still, my debt covers my assets and my assets create wealth for us.
So right there. By the way, isn't this baby cute? That's awesome. I love that. Now I know Sam personally. Like I know this guy is a stand-up guy. I even had him on my podcast, on the Money Ripples podcast. I've even been interviewed on his show too. The guy is an amazing guy, a really good guy. He has a brilliant mind. He knows what he's doing, right? But remember, making it seem like he's bragging about this debt. He's doing this as shock value, saying like 25 million debt, this should be horrible. But he's saying, but here's what's important. I am servicing that debt. Like the income that's coming in is more than covering the debt payments that I have. Therefore, I'm okay. Is there a risk to that? Yes, absolutely. And Sam's definitely not impervious to risk, and he's definitely not blind to it either. He knows that there's risk there. But his point is, it's okay. He would never have had those assets had he not leveraged debt to buy those assets, especially when he bought some of those assets undervalued, and then was able to build his portfolio to have 17 million of equity. Now, having 17 million equity doesn't mean anything to me at all, right? That's okay. Like 17 million equity, having equity doesn't mean anything unless you have positive income, you have cash flow coming from that. But if you're able to put little to no money into these properties, and I know he put money into them, that's no secret either. Like he's definitely put money for down payments, but still, even if he was netting, let's just say $50,000 a month, $600,000 a year, that's pretty darn good, isn't it? Considering that he was able to leverage the banks to be able to make more money. Now, let's go to Dave Ramsey's video at this point. Now, Dave was already talking with his co-host here, talking about how that really just like people are talking about leveraging using your debt, right? Like, using debt, having it to create income, to service your payments. And Dave is just absolutely hates that, especially on his show. Now, I've seen other interviews where he's actually admitted, yes, that can work, but he doesn't like it because of his personal experience.
You watch some of these guys, honestly, most of you have good walking around sense. If you'll take a second and just watch the body language of a couple of these characters, you can 100% see they're lying. That their scenario is, I have $25 million in mortgages, and he's got a baby on his hip.
Oh, you've seen that one. Yeah, that one went viral.
Yeah, that one's just...
Wait, what's the lie part? Is he lying about having $25 million in mortgages? Why would he lie about that? Well, let's keep listening.
It's just so, that guy's so lying that is not true. You just watch it. Watch his eyes, watch his mouth. I mean, the guy is just, you don't have to be a FBI trained to figure out this guy's not telling the truth, okay?
I welcome you. Put in the comments below. Did you see something in his facial expressions and body language that signaled that Sam's lying here? So
it's just a straight up lie. So honestly, people, the data that we did in this...
He's referring to his study that he did of millionaires that they went and studied, and not one of them, he says, leveraged debt to create millions, to become a millionaire, which I don't know who he's polling. There are plenty of millionaires out there, and maybe he just went to the people that have been listening to his show. That could be why. But I'm telling you, out of the millionaires he polled, there are plenty of millionaires that leverage debt to go and do that. Now, did they leverage credit card debt to do that? No, you'll find fewer millionaires. Although I actually have had some of those millionaires on my show where, especially in the 90s, around that time, where they would actually use credit cards to buy real estate and built multi-millions, even hundreds of millions of dollars in their portfolios because of that. Here's the thing. If you go to the very end of that video, that's why I showed you the end, because he was saying like, yeah, I'm cash flowing $160,000 a month. He could have stopped there. But Sam kept going. He says, no, I actually have other expenses involved here. You know, he's got teams involved. He's got, of course, property management involved and things like that. He was just talking about servicing the debt and showing his net profit before some of those other expenses came out. But he's still making literally millions of dollars with his real estate. That I do know. But I've also heard Dave Ramsey say, if you look at another video that's with him and Stephan, you know, I did a react video to one of Stephan and his videos together, but they did a full interview, and Dave even admits that he had used debt. Now that's the reason he went broke, right? He went bankrupt. His perspective is, I don't like to take risk with debt. And even he said, I built a $700 million portfolio with no debt, but he had to have seed money from somewhere. So if he didn't use debt, he used a lot of those freaking profits out of his companies to be able to do that, right? He had to do that. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't a good saver. I wasn't saying he didn't do all those things, but the thing is, his company pays him more than enough money. He doesn't even need the real estate. And his real estate now pays him enough money that he doesn't even need the stocks. But that's what he tells you to invest in. He's buying the real estate. He's investing in mutual funds too, but he doesn't need that stuff. It's really for him just play money. You know, his business is the number one investment, followed by his real estate portfolio, followed by then everything else is just play money for him. But even when he admitted, when he talked about using debt, he was leveraging debt for a very high risk type of investing. He was flipping properties. He was doing like these 90-day short-term type stuff. That is high risk, and using debt for that is scary. So of course the bank called the notes due on him because they thought he was too risky, especially when he was just in his early 20s doing this kind of stuff. Yeah, I get that. Like that's going to leave a mark on you. I was in my late 20s when the banks took everything away from me. Now, I wasn't doing the strategies that Dave was doing. I wasn't being that active as flipping and doing those quick, easy money type stuff. That is high risk and with different markets. And that was in 1984 that he was dealing with that kind of stuff. In the 80s, interest rates were super high, right, at that point. Yes, he was affected by it, but I was affected by it in 2008. 20 years later in a recession that affected real estate prices dramatically. And the thing I learned from that was, when I use debt, I got to be safe. I actually will put down payments on houses. I will put 20 or 25% down to give myself a little less risk, to give myself equity, instant equity in that property. Now, I'll leverage the other 75 or 80% in a house. I have no problem doing that. But I have to make sure that the debt services it. I also have to make sure I have more than enough cash reserves to cover those payments, even if it's for several months. So it's not just the fact of using debt. There's a whole bigger picture you got to look at here. But of course, I know Dave's come from his perspective of what he did, and he's just trying to tell all Americans, listen, you guys aren't smart enough to figure this out and to be wise enough with this money. So if I'm going to give you blanket statements, I'm just going to tell you all just to do this, right? And he has every right to do so. And I know he's a good guy. He has good intentions. He has a good heart. But the truth is that to try to tell people, don't you dare look at that. That's horrible. And what that guy did, he's a liar. That's not true. It's another ridiculous example that when you have Dave Ramsey on a show, he becomes highly judgmental. He's 100% absolute. And when you speak in absolutes, that is when you're going to be proven wrong every time. And that was just an absolute when I said that. You're going to be proven wrong a lot. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, check out this next video I did where I react to Dave Ramsey looking at Stephan's portfolio like I mentioned earlier. You want to check that one out.